Maplewood was a quiet, peaceful town with a dark secret. It was said that a killer clown named Patches roamed the streets at night, kidnapping and murdering innocent victims for his own sick pleasure. His twisted antics had haunted the town for years, earning him the title of the Maplewood Maniac. No one knew for sure when Patches had first appeared in Maplewood. Some said he was born and raised in the town, while others believed he came from a nearby circus. But one thing was certain: his presence was chilling and his deeds were gruesome. Patches had a unique style of hunting down his victims. He would use his clown costume and makeup to lure unsuspecting victims, usually children, into his grasp. Once he had captured them, he would take them to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town. In this warehouse, Patches had created his own twisted playground. The walls were covered in disturbing drawings and writings, and the floor was littered with blood and body parts. It was here that he would chop up his victims' bodies and burn their remains in a large furnace, reveling in the sick pleasure it brought him. The townspeople were terrified of Patches and lived in constant fear that he would strike again. Some claimed to have seen him wandering the streets at night, his eerie laughter echoing through the deserted town. Parents would warn their children not to go out at night, for fear of falling into Patches' trap. But despite the fear and warnings, Patches continued to roam the town, always on the lookout for his next victim. No one knew what drove him to commit such heinous acts, but some speculated that he had suffered a traumatic event in his childhood that had twisted his mind and turned him into a monster. One summer night, a group of teenagers decided to explore the abandoned warehouse, unaware of the horror that awaited them. As they entered the dark and eerie building, they could hear faint whispers and giggles, sending chills down their spines. They cautiously made their way through the maze of rooms, coming across more and more disturbing artwork and evidence of Patches' previous victims. Suddenly, they heard a loud cackle and the sound of footsteps approaching. They turned to run but were met with the menacing figure of Patches, his face painted in a grotesque smile. Before they could react, he had captured them and dragged them to his furnace, where their screams were engulfed by the flames. The next morning, the town was in a state of shock. The bodies of the teenagers were found charred and unrecognizable, and Patches was nowhere to be found. Some believed that he had finally moved on to another town, while others feared that he was still out there, waiting for his next victims. Years went by, and the legend of Patches continued to haunt Maplewood. Some claimed to have seen him walking the streets at night, while others swore they could hear his maniacal laughter in the stillness of the town. The town became known as a place to avoid, the home of the infamous killer clown, Patches.